Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Bricktop is furious. Frank Warren is threatening legal action after promoter Ben Shalom suggested there could have been something dodgy with the gloves that Fabio Wardley won when he stopped and starched Frazer Clarke inside a round, and this was on the most recent Riyadh season at the time of recording this video. As we know, the two fought to a draw in their first fight, and Wardley absolutely dominated him in the second. The fight never really got going because Wardley ended things so emphatically. So what is going on? What are the claims? So you had Ben Shalom of Boxer XX. So he was on a YouTube channel called The Sportsman Boxing. And as you can see here, and this is a clip that's reposted on Twitter, talking to the host, and he goes into some issues that they had about the gloves. So what I'll do is I'll just play a couple of audio excerpts, and then I'll get to Frank Warren's quotes, and then a few thoughts, because I think the horse is bolted here for Ben Shalom, because the time to raise issues with the gloves was to scream bloody murder ahead of the fight. You know, obviously there's a process for the gloves to be approved and such, but we'll get to that. So talking to Sportsman Boxing, Ben Shalom, here's a couple of audio excerpts, said the following.
We'll look at what the glove situation was there. I won't get too much into it, but there was a lot of talk during the week as to the gloves that were being worn by Fabio Wardley. The doctor said to me, there's no way in hell any boxing glove should be able to have that level of damage. These customized gloves that are starting to get introduced, the word customized, the fact that they're different, you got to look at it. And as I say, I'm not going to get too much into it because it's an ongoing process. But during the week, we were warned repeatedly by Frazer's team around what gloves could be being used. And
so Shalom is suggesting that there was suspicion around the gloves and that potentially something dodgy was going on. But Frank Warren, talking to TalkSport, says that he is ready to, potentially launch legal action, and it goes through some of the background which I've just covered, including we'll look at the glove situation is there. Talking to TalkSport, he says that the comments were libelous. I'm pretty sure libel is for print. But anyway, he says, first of all, the situation is that all gloves and manufacturers have to be approved by the British Boxing Board of Control. The ones that are approved on a list, which is on the website of the Boxing Board of Control for everyone to see. And Fly is an approved glove. I think one of the things to note is, especially if you've been following boxing for any length of time, you know that certain gloves are deemed puncher's gloves. Certain boxers like to, maybe because of hand injuries, have more padding in their gloves, and other boxers will go for ones that are more considered puncher's gloves. Some of the gloves do have a bit more impact. But Frank Warren continues, the procedure before a fight is this. The gloves are inspected by the British Boxing Board of Control at the rules meeting. Then they are retained by an official until handed to the boxer in the dressing room, where there is a British Boxing Board of Control inspector who is ever present until the fight takes place. The gloves are checked and signed off, the fighter's hands are wrapped, the inspector signs the wrapping, the gloves are put on, and then the lace part of the gloves is normally taped up, and the inspector will sign it off. And then again, when they're in the ring, the referee, if you notice before fights, he checks the gloves prior to the contest commencing. No boxer can have possession or supply his own gloves. They must be sent by the manufacturer to the promoter in sealed packaging, which was the case here. You're wrong in saying that Shalom was the promoter. He wasn't the promoter. The promoter at the event was Queensberry on behalf of Riyadh Season and in conjunction with Salah. His fighters fought on the bill. The contracts that were signed with Queensberry and that dealt with glove issues, etc., in those contracts. Any boxer's camp can expect the other boxer's choice of gloves and make an objection if they wish. Frazer's camp checked at the rules meeting. They said he didn't like flies, but Robert Smith said they had approved gloves and Frazer could wear them if he wished. Prior to the fight, Shalom said something like there was a big concern about them, but he didn't even attend the rules meeting. Why didn't he attend the rules meeting if he had that concern? If he was so concerned as his representative, could have been there, but didn't attend. Pure nonsense. So he continues. But I think the thing is with this issue, Frank Warren has pretty much chapter and verse laid it out. But I would also add, it's not just often one glove, set of gloves is sent. There will be a few different pairs of gloves, like a backup, because sometimes there could be an issue identified with the gloves. So they would go to a backup pair. I mean, we've seen that in different instances where you hear just ahead of the fight that a fighter has changed gloves at the last minute for whatever reason. Sometimes that might be down to fighter preference, but sometimes it is down to there is something, okay, well, actually there is an issue with the gloves. I mean, this is kind of, I think, somewhat a storm in a teacup. I mean, it's probably not going to get the attention that the ridiculous glove gate, Deontay Wilder claims egg weights in the glove situation got a number of years ago. That was ridiculous. And I think this is also ridiculous as well. Approved gloves from an approved manufacturer, a rules meeting with an inspection, and Frazer Clarke also had the option of wearing the same gloves and given that option. And I think the other thing to sort of say with this is, if you truly believe that there is something so wrong with what's going on, because Shalom in his clip, and you can listen to the full clip on Sportsman Boxing, alludes to Frazer's team didn't like them, that he didn't like them, that there was all this ahead of the fight and talk about it. I mean, perhaps because Fabio Wardley was going to be wearing puncher's gloves, you have Frazer Clarke's team going, actually, we don't like this because this could actually cause more damage. And potentially it did. But if you would also note, and there is a clip that Fabio Wardley has put up on his Instagram, and I encourage you to go look at it, for the way that he was looking to land the punch that, really started things off, started the rot, the biggest punch of the fight to that point, that was a setup. They'd planned for that. So, he was working to a plan with approved gloves, and he did his job. But I think if Ben Shalom and co, say Frazer Clarke's team, Frazer Clarke himself, if they really had a issue with the gloves to the point where they were like, nah, this shouldn't happen, these gloves can't be on. And we've, I think maybe had a few instances before, cause a scene in fight week. Go out publicly, make a big scene, and then people will have to react. And potentially that could have done something. There is no point coming up after the fight with these sorts of potential claims, just throwing out the hint of dodginess about the gloves because you look a little bit silly. You have to say something, and loudly, ahead of the fight if you truly believe that, something is going on that you don't agree with. Because after the fight, it just looks like an excuse, and Shalom looks a bit pitiful for trying to suggest that the gloves that were reviewed, approved, followed the process, by the British Boxing Board of Control, went through all the normal processes, as all gloves do for other British Boxing Board of Control fights, you just look like a wally for trying to do this. And it looks like an excuse, rather than just sort of going, okay, we need to move on. The time for making a scene was ahead of the fight, not after. So Ben Shalom, Wally of the Week award here on this one. And I think Frank Warren is right to, be annoyed with this, because I think it's a bit of a non-issue after the fact, given all the rigor that happened ahead of the fight. And if they really wanted to push for another set of gloves, the time to do it was not after the fight, it was before. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.